She plays Myra on All My Children. Good morning, Eileen.
Good morning to you, John. I'm sure John will agree. We love hearing from all of you out there when you write us letters and tell us what you'd like to see us feature here on Good Day, or you share your problems and concerns. Last week, I received a very moving letter from a woman named Virginia Paul. She wrote, "I hope you would consider doing a show about miscarriage or stillborn. You expect to lose your parents or friends, but you are not ever prepared to lose your own baby who never even got to see his mother's face. I know it would be a great help to families and friends of those who have experienced this ultimate tragedy." Virginia was not quite ready to be on television as her tragedy is very recent, but she did lead us to Barbara and Ken Leary, who lost their baby 1 year ago, and to Sue Harrington from Hope. Hope is a support group that helps other parents deal with the loss of a child. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for coming on to deal with this. I should say that we're not doing this to frighten any expectant mothers. It's just, as Virginia said, in the hope of helping others realize they're not alone, I guess, right, Sue?
That's right.
First, let's clarify so we all know what we're talking about, the difference between a miscarriage and a stillborn.
Well, a miscarriage usually happens early in pregnancy, whereas a stillbirth, usually they go full term. So they have that longer period of bonding.
So there's a difference then in the range of emotions, or is there?
The grieving process, of course, would be longer usually.
With the
but
stillborn.
the grief is still there. With the stillbirth, it's longer. Yeah.
All right, Barbara, you were 7 months pregnant.
Yes, that's
when you
right.
delivered a stillborn child. Can you tell us what happened?
Yes, it was about 2 days that I did not feel any fetal activity, and I developed some discomfort, and I called my physician, and he recommended that I come in. And when they examined me, they couldn't find the baby's heartbeat. And they felt that we had had fetal demise, that the baby had died. They sent me for an ultrasound, which verified that the baby had indeed died, at which point they induced me, and I delivered a stillborn baby girl, 4 pounds, and she was just beautiful, but not alive.
Did you suspect did you actually know that you weren't feeling a kicking?
I knew in the bottom of my heart that I had not felt this baby move, and it concerned me, and I knew that that was not a good sign, but I think I felt that I would go and they would make everything all right. And when they finally told me, you know, that there was no heartbeat, that the baby had died, it was like I just couldn't believe that really had happened.
And yet you went through the entire labor procedure knowing all of this, right?
Yes.
What are you feeling when that happens to you?
Well, I think that shock takes over a certain part of you, so that some of my memories are sketchy and I don't recall everything as accurately as other people recall them. But it's just, you want it to be over, you don't know what to expect. It's a very sad time.
I'm sure it is. You know, we hear so much about the bonding between a mother and a baby, but I think that the thing we've ignored for so long is that there's a bonding between father and baby as well, isn't there, Ken?
Yeah, there certainly is, yeah. It was a very traumatic experience for me as well. And during some of our sessions of the Hope Group, I related that when I had heard that other people had had stillbirths, I used to say to myself, well, it's not too bad. But that's all I said, and I walked away. I never realized what a tragedy it really was, and how much even the father does bond with the child.
How does the father deal with his range of emotions? Were there certain things that you did to try to get through the grieving process?
Well, I think that I did a little bit of denial that I had any feelings for a while, and then once I came to grips with it, I personally had a tough time for maybe a month or so, dealing with the fact that I felt bad. That just felt so foreign to me that I should feel bad.
As Courtney was delivered, you held the baby, didn't you?
Yes.
Why?
Well, initially I wasn't going to. The doctor asked me if I wanted to, and I said absolutely not. And the circumstances were such that I had gone home. It was late at night, and I had gone home just before Barbara had delivered. And they called me the minute I had gotten home. I came back, and when I came in, I just said I had to see the baby. Barbara showed the baby to me.
It's kind of like a natural thing that happens. So I can remember when the baby was born, and I delivered right in the labor room. I wasn't taken into a delivery room. And the minute that she was born, I just reached right for her. And I wasn't sure whether I would be able to do that or not. The nurses asked me if I wanted to hold the baby or see the baby, and I felt I did. But then when it came to that point, I just automatically reached for her. And they wrapped her very nicely and presented to me just as everyone that has a normal, healthy baby would have. And you just take her, and I just took in every detail that I had of her because I knew I was saying goodbye to her, not hello, and that's very sad. And I undressed her, and I just wanted to see every little part of her because I knew that I would never get to do that again. But I don't regret it. It was a beautiful memory that I have.
Do you do that so that you don't later on conjure up visions? Do you actually get to know your child so that it doesn't grow in your mind that you might have had a deformed child or a grotesque child? Is that part of it?
Well, at least from my point of view, I'm very grateful I did hold the baby and see the baby.
What were you feeling, Ken, when that happened?
A great sense of tragedy, really. I felt a great loss. Can't really describe it any more accurately than that.
Is this what hope suggests when this happens? Do you actually work with doctors and try to let them know that it's important for a mother and father to hold the child?
Yes, it was a long time working with the doctors. They felt that, you know, holding and looking at dead babies was very morbid. And unless it had happened to them, they couldn't understand why we would want parents to do that. And like Barbara said, you fantasize. You know, this kid was just a monster in your mind later, you know. You're trying to envision how much the baby weighed and, you know, how long it was. And you really have a natural void in your arms. You need to hold that baby after all of that time. And unless you get a chance to do that, you fantasize. And the baby's a lot worse than you ever thought it would be.
And even people that, some of the girls that may have had a deformed baby only remember and see the nice parts of this baby. And that's what they take away from it. And you can always find something beautiful about it, even though it's a very emotional, moving time for you. You know, I always have that memory of that baby, and I'll never, ever lose that, which is nice.
You named her Courtney.
We named her Courtney.
Is that's always done, isn't it? You must give the baby an identity.
A live birth must be named. You have an option. You don't have to name your child. It was suggested to us that we give the baby a name, and we did.
How about the announcement that's put in the paper? Why is that done? Isn't there an announcement of death that is...
Not normally, no.
Oh.
We kind of ask our couples to do that. They're in shock. You have to remember that when you ask Ken how his feelings are, it's just in total devastated shock. You know, they've lost it. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to feel. They need permission to feel. They really don't know whether they should cry or laugh or go get drunk or what. You know, and you have to sort of guide them.
I think you do a little bit of all of the above.
Yeah, you guide them
I should have did.
I think
you really do. And you tell them that it's good to give the baby a name. The baby needs an identity. It's somebody that you'll identify with.
Now that was a good thing that I did. You know, all these things in retrospect, I don't think anything that we did I wished we had done differently. But there were a lot of things that might have not happened that now I'd say, oh, I wish this had happened. I wish that had happened.
Like what? Can you think of
holding the baby, the way we handled the burial, things like that.
Yeah, I think the burial is very important.
Naming the baby, you know, otherwise it would just be baby
Makes
Leary.
it a real person.
And this is a person, and it's somebody that we can describe. We have a 5-year-old, and he will call her by name. He knows he had a sister by that name, which is a lot more tangible than saying, you know, oh, the baby.
Absolutely.
You know, it is a person in your life.
What we'll do now is take a break and invite our viewers to call us. Again, I have to say, if you are expecting a child, this is not in any way to frighten you, but if you've been through this experience or a similar tragedy, we'd love to have you share what you're feeling right now. We'll be right back. Stillbirth. Obviously a very painful issue, but there is hope. In fact, those are the initials of Sue Harrington's group. They help people endure, help parents endure. We've invited Ken and Barbara Leary, who a year ago had a stillbirth, but we should say that, you know, again, there is hope. You are pregnant. You're 7 months pregnant now, right, Barbara?
Yes, that's right.
Will this baby be a replacement for Courtney?
No, I think, you know, everybody initially, or a lot of girls initially, want another baby that will replace the one they have lost, but I don't feel that this one is a replacement. I can't ever replace that baby. I do want 2 children. We want 2 children, and we want this baby very much, but no, it's not a replacement for the baby that we lost.
But I think a lot of people believe that. A lot of people. Every guy I spoke to said the same thing to me. Make sure she gets pregnant right away. Help her forget it.
But that's how other people...
That's how they perceive it.
But shouldn't you work through the grieving of Courtney before you rush off to have another child?
Certainly should.
And that's
Otherwise, they do run one into the other, and you don't really know which baby you're dealing with.
you haven't separated the
That's
grieving
what the
from
Hope Group does anyway. It helps them to work through the grieving steps and their feelings and the depression that comes and goes.
Let's see what our viewers have to say. Good morning, you're on Good Day. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yes, hi. I just have a comment to make. I lost premature triplets 10 years ago, and the philosophy then was so different from now. It's so healthy what these people are saying. It's healthy to grieve. I never saw those babies. I have no memory of them except for this terrible pain in my heart. I just want to say that these people are doing a wonderful service, and God bless them. I have 2 healthy, normal babies now, and it's a void that'll never be filled, but grieve them. Grieve the ones that you lose, and remember them. They are special. And if there's anything I can do, please put the number of Hope on the air.
We
because
will.
I'd like to help.
Great, we will do that, and maybe it'll help you too, maybe work through finally your grieving. I think if there's anything positive about the 80s, it's that we are now sharing emotion.
Our feelings.
When we didn't do that 10 years ago.
Men and women.
Yes. Let's take another
That's
call.
right.
Good morning, you're on Good Day.
Yes, I had a premature delivery, and the worst thing that I think the hospital ever could have done was they took my daughter away from me before I even had a chance to look at her. They told me that I had a little girl, and I was so scared because they never let me see her till after I got out of the recovery room, and then when I finally went up to see her, she was hooked up to all kinds of machines, and it was almost like a total shock. I mean, my daughter's healthy now, thank God, but it really scared the life out of me knowing that they wouldn't even let me touch her or see her before they took her away from me.
Some of the things that can be done about a situation like that is to get out your pen and your paper and write to the hospital where you delivered. And tell them your feelings. That's how we got the Hope Group started. Tell them how you feel about your experience and how some of your friends have felt and what possibly could have been done to help to make it better.
It occurred to me when I was listening to her that if a hospital is not affiliated with Hope, will they automatically still today keep the mother and the father and the baby apart? Or are most hospitals now tuned into that moment together?
Most hospitals are, like you say, tuned in, and we do get a lot of referrals from other hospitals. And we have
it's like
set up
everything,
other groups.
you know, word of mouth is helping, and because so many of us have delivered in so many different hospitals, and we have hooked up with the Hope Group, we're able to spread our message to other people, and I think more people are becoming aware of all of the details involved in dealing with the death of a baby.
Did your friends and family help you grieve? Or I wonder, were the grandparents so disappointed that they weren't helpful? What happened?
Friends and family.
Well, that's a very complicated question, because I feel that the families, my family and friends, helped me and supported me in the only way they knew how.
I think a lot of it falls back on what I said. When I had heard, actually it was a cousin of mine had a stillbirth, I said, gee, isn't that too bad? But I walked on. I didn't really appreciate the loss.
If you don't know what a flower is, you don't know what it smells like. So, you know, they feel very badly for you, but they don't really know what that feels like. Whereas I look at the Hope Group as, you know, a more supportive type of a thing for me, because when I speak in that group, I know everybody knows how I feel. We all feel that same feeling.
There aren't the callous remarks that oftentimes aren't meant to be
and
that way.
families and
right.
friends,
They're not
after a
meant.
short period of time, expect your grief and grieving to be done. That baby has died. You have buried that baby. Put those feelings aside. And sometimes it takes a very long time. Some people do it more quickly than others. There's no set rate at which you can do it.
All right, let's take another call. Good morning, you're on Good Day.
Hi.
Hi.
I had Eileen.
Yes, go right ahead.
Hi. I had a similar situation happen to me last April. I delivered at Brigham and Women's Hospital, and they do have a support group for parents after they lose their children. And I did go to that for a few weeks, and I did find it helpful. But I wanted to comment on the fact that I really think it is important to hold a baby afterwards. My daughter, I had a cesarean, and I had general anesthesia, so I was not awake. And it was something that at the time the doctor suspected a problem and thought that it would be best. But I never saw my daughter alive because she only lived for 40 minutes. And they brought her to me the next day. And I still wish that I had a picture of something so I had some sort of a you know, really good, clear memory, and because it's starting to fade, although I can remember some things, but, you know, I just think it's really important to know it and hold it and love it and kiss it and everything, you know, because it's so much a part of you for, you know, 8 or 9 months, however long you carry it.
It's amazing to me that everyone in the studio has tears in their eyes. You know,
I know it. I love it. Beautiful.
Do you have any help for her, Barbara? Anything you can?
Well, just what she says is true. We are finding that now a lot of the hospitals will take pictures of these babies. I do not have a picture of my baby, and I wish I did, because my memory does fade somewhat. I can remember all the nice things that I want to remember about her, but it is true. All I can suggest to her is what Sue said too, is to even write a letter to the hospital so they're aware of that feeling and what has been done is a good thing and that you need to hold these babies. And I've never heard of a single parent that said, "I'm sorry I held my baby." It is so important that you do that.
Something we just don't think about.
No, we don't.
How did you tell Kevin, your son, who was then 4.5 years old? You know, we always prep our kids. Mommy's carrying a baby in her tummy. What do you go home and tell him?
Well, initially, he was told when I was in the hospital, so...
Right. I explained to him that Courtney had died and that she had really gone to heaven and that she was an angel. And that it was going to be a tough time for his mother and for him and for us to go on, but that we could be comforted with the knowledge that there was a little angel named Courtney.
What do you tell other fathers, Ken?
Well, I have a tough time in accepting some of the true feelings that I felt, and I tell him that, you know, she was a baby, she was a human being, and she was my little girl, and I found it very tough to accept, and that they don't really understand what the loss is.
What do you tell other fathers that are going through this or have been through it?
Well, in the group session, they have an opportunity to express their thoughts, and there's a lot of interaction among the group, and that's I believe, the real strength of that group, is that when you have a feeling, as emotional as it may be, and the tears and the heartache, you're not ashamed to show it because the whole group is showing it. And part of the group function is that everybody goes around and expresses their tragedy. And, well, it's been over a year for me, and as you can see, I still get tears in my eyes.
I suppose you just really never, and that maybe is the beauty of it, if there is beauty to it. You cling to a life that is, in fact, and was a life.
And the other thing, too, with Kevin, our son, I think that we underestimate children, and that sometimes children deal with these things better than adults do because they don't have a lot of preconceived ideas of the way they should behave or they shouldn't behave, and they can be totally honest about their feelings. And, you know, he would, like, my son would come up to me and he might say, oh, if I was having a really blue day and I might cry or something, and he'd say, oh, Mom, it's that baby, isn't it? And see, he had so much insight that a lot of adults didn't have, and it was really, it's nice. We shouldn't always shelter our children from reality.
And now he, every morning, right? Well, every morning he comes in and says, is the baby still kicking?
So he has.
He's checking up on you, yes.
Let's make sure we give the number of hope and leave it on long enough. The number is 337.